Welcome to Lee's Place, Carl Mcintosh of Loose Ends.
Good.
Legend, the pioneer, I
Oh,
mean, gosh, when I hear that 808, that when it comes in the bass and then you come in with your scat in and stuff. Oh, classic, classic,
wow.
classic. But this thing, we've been on the road together, we've done shows together, we
Yep.
partied in the early 80s together.
Yep.
You know, it's been centuries and we're still here. We're still here. But I want to know more because there's things that I don't even know about you, even prior to Loose Sense. And I want to know because you're such a talent. And I love your sounds. I love the stuff that you do. Every time I hear something, like, oh my God,
Wow.
this is a Marvin,
Ah,
he's doing this thing that
thank you. Of course.
seriously.
Lee, coming from you, that is wow. That is such a compliment because I feel
No,
exactly the
you know,
same way. I love your music. I love what you were doing in the 80s. I love what you're doing now. So yeah, it's
thank
right
you,
back
thank
at
you. I
you.
mean, I saw the last show at the Jazz Cafe the last time I saw you, and you and the girls were
Right.
like, "Oh,
Yes.
really pumping it out there." So I know when we
Ah,
do our stuff in the O2, and I got to remember
mhm.
the day. My brain's going. Yeah, the 11th of the year.
Okay.
I know you're going to be smashing it for everybody out there.
Yeah, boy. Well, I don't know about smash it, but we'll give it a go, go out
Yes.
there and do our thing, you know how it goes.
So, Carl McIntosh, when
Yeah.
did it all start for you musically?
Mm. Um, I had a funny start in music because I had one of those fathers that was not impressed with anything I did really. And it sort of continued. It was art, and he didn't like my art. And then it went on to music, and he had a great record collection. And
Mm,
what used to happen is my mum and dad were romantics, really deep romantics. They used to have
mm, mm,
parties on Fridays. It wasn't a party, it was just like a little get together. Some friends would come over after work and they bust a bottle of
mm,
drink. And then next thing you know, some music goes on. And there'd be partying and stuff. What would happen though is someone would dance with someone too long, or something would happen, and then there would be this huge argument fueled by alcohol and all of that. And then there would be this huge argument, and then part would be over. And then Saturday and Sunday, my father would start the process of making up. His process would be Solomon Burke, Al Green. He'd start playing these records. Solomon Burke, Al
mm, mm.
Green, um, Donald Byrd, uh, Isaac Hayes. Now, you start with Isaac Hayes, I Stand Accused.
Oh,
All right.
Isaac,
Yeah.
classic.
And then he would go into all of these great songs, Betty Wright, as I said, Al Green. And then eventually it would end up on Marvin Gaye. That was that
Mm,
was his
mm.
number one. And by then, the pot would be on the fire. My mum's sort of, she ain't said she's forgiven him, but you could start to smell food cooking, which means
Mhm,
that she's coming round and
mhm,
all of that stuff. So by,
mm,
say,
mm,
Sunday
mm.
evening, it would be all happiness and everyone would be lovey-doved up, and my mum and dad would be in their bedroom and we would be off limits. We couldn't knock the door or nothing. So that's kind of where it started. And then I went to New York when I was 16 with my mum. And while I was in New York, we went to Queens on a Saturday morning. And my mother was in and out of shops. And there was one shop we went into, and I heard Boogie Nights. Whoa. And I heard that intro with all the jazz going on. I was, oh my gosh, what is this? So I stayed and listened to it until the Boogie Nights, that part came in, the beat. And when I looked around, my mum was gone. So I was like lost. And there's loads of people in front of me, and I was lost. Where's my mum? And then someone boxed me around the back of my head and said, "Where you been?" So that was her. And even at 15, 16, she could do that. Right? So yeah, so that really played a big part, because that on that trip, in the evenings, we used to listen to jazz, which was a no-no in England. They literally had jazz on the radio. So, you know, in the evening times, someone would come on and say, "Hi, this is the Taylor," or he would say, "My name is Mike Taylor. You're going to listen to 103.4, whatever, jazz." Then some jazz would come on, and it blew my mind. Because in London, you know, yeah, YYD and you know, all these groups, rock music, they were good groups, but you know, it wasn't much jazz or soul on the radio. So that trip changed my whole persona. I love soul music, and I was hearing it every day. And there was one particular song called San Lorenzo by Pat Metheny that used to come on every day, and it was so haunting, this song. And it really, when I came back to London, I think I was ahead of a lot of the music that was happening in terms of community music, not on the radio, but stuff that was in the record collection, stuff that my friends were listening to. You know, I've been hearing the future. So yeah, that was the beginning, really.
And when did you start actually starting to play?
So I started playing in 1978. There was this bully that I used to play football, and there was this bully that used to always be hacking at my heels every time I played. And one day I was punished for playing the piano in school, and they punished me by making me clean the music room. Now, I know any musician, that is not a punishment. No, I'm surrounded by pianos and violins and drums. I'm like, please let me clean it again. Anyway, I came home from that with a guitar. They let me borrow a guitar. And when I was walking home, the bully, he saw me walking with the guitar. And he said, "Hey, come here a minute." So I was like, okay, here we go. I'm gonna have to fight this guy. He goes, "Let me see your guitar." And I thought, okay, he's gonna take it. But he didn't take it. He started playing some beautiful guitar. I was like, oh my God. And from that moment, we bonded. And my mum loved him. His name was Lawrence Dallabank. And my mum took him in like a brother. And we started to play our own songs, so to speak. He had a great style, and we started to make up our own little songs. He had the style like a James Brown. We call it chicken grease, like rhythm guitar, and most of his songs were kind of like that. So I would play the bass because I couldn't play guitar as good as him. My mum, she loved it, because you know, when you're 15, 16, you're not on the streets, you're in your bedroom practicing. Right. But my dad would come home from work, he would be like, "What's all this noise?" And he'd just literally come in the room, wrap up everything, dash out the window.
You're joking.
He's not impressed, you know. No, even when I had the number ones or whatever, not impressed.
I understand. I have a father very similar. Yeah,
I'm sure.
Though, in his collection, he had all the Imagination albums. I didn't realize
same
that,
as mine.
He was telling me, "Oh, you know, you'll get over this bit." Come on, you know, you got property to look after. You know. But before Loose Ends, was there another band that you were in?
Yeah, I used to play in many bands. Before Loose Ends, I was in a band called Uptown People. Now, this is the band which me and Lawrence started. Lawrence is one of the singers, Linda Carrier. He's her big brother.
Okay.
And later on, we can visit how that came full circle. But we had a band called Uptown People. And then I was in a band called Black Chalice, which was a reggae band. And I was also in a band called Scatterrocks, which is
I
another
remember
reggae.
Scatterrocks. I remember Scatterrocks.
Yeah. We used to
Yeah.
play live
They
all
had,
over London.
yeah, Phoebe's.
Yes.
They have us road, yes, yeah.
Yeah.
I remember that, yes. I see Aswad down there, Black Slate.
Yeah. Oh
These
yeah.
kind of,
That was
yeah.
my corner.
Yeah, Phoebe's. It's not far from where we lived, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Whoa, I didn't know that. But yeah,
Yeah,
so
there's always a story behind the story, you see.
yeah, there is. I didn't realize you lived in near
Yeah,
Dor-.
North London. I was Finsbury Park by the Rainbow. I saw
Oh,
so many bands at the Rainbow.
yeah.
Stevie Wonder was one of the first concerts I went to. I jumped
Wow.
on stage with War, which I
No way.
yeah, one of my favorite bands ever, War. You know, because everybody thinks, oh, you love the Motown, you like this, but there are other things, you know.
Right.
So Bob Marley
Yeah.
at the Rainbow.
Yeah.
See him. Oh my God.
Yeah, we used to go to the Rainbow at 3:00.
Yeah.
And try to sneak in to see the sound check.
Sound check, yes,
Until someone kicked us out.
It was easy to sneak into there, though.
Yeah.
It was.
Yeah.
We
The side doors.
That's right. Yeah, it was. You know, because there's old theaters. You know.
Yeah.
And I think if I'm not wrong, we did an all-dayer together at the Rainbow. There's all of these artists.
Oh,
I think I got it somewhere. There was Level 42. There was, oh my God, and you got 52nd Street. No, before 52nd Street. But there's all these.
Yeah, that must have been a long time ago.
That's a long time ago. That's a long time ago.
Brilliant.
Everybody struggling, like the world. All these
Yes.
from up there, all from up that side. Because we used to go to the Tottenham Royal and
Right.
and Charlie Browns and Bumbles.
Right.
And, you know, I was a crackers boy. You know,
Yeah.
so I was all part of that scene. I was part of that.
I'm originally from Tottenham. I'm originally
Really?
from Haringey. Yeah.
I didn't even know that.
Born North Middlesex Hospital, lived in Crowland Road, lived in Tottenham for the first part of my life, and then my parents moved to Hackney.
Oh, okay, I was born in Hackney.
Yeah, you're born in Hackney. Yeah. Mother's Hospital.
Yeah, that's right.
Was it?
That's right. That's at the time. Yeah, it's not there anymore.
Right. No, it's apartments.
My goodness,
But yeah.
see?
Yeah, so
We
I
could have
didn't
crossed
realize.
paths. So what happened after the Scatterlights and all those groups?
Yeah, so basically, I was just I had my own group as well called Mint Condition, not the famous Mint Condition, but we used to practice in this place in South London, and I think I just moved out of my mum's house then, and I was getting a lot of work as a bass player for session bass, and you know I used to have. Well, let me just tell you how the bass thing started. I used to have a friend called Paul Williams, and he used to play in a group called Light of the World. But he was younger than me. He was like a year younger.
That's right.
And he was
Tubbs.
bigger. Yeah, Tubbs, his name is, yes. And when I first met him, I saw this bass player. I thought he was about 20 years older than me because he was so big and meaty, you know. But he wasn't. He was a year younger than me. And not only that, but we struck up a friendship. I think I was playing the bass and he said, "Can I see the bass?" And I gave it to him and he mullered it. He wiped the floor with whatever I was doing. And it was brilliant to see, like, wow, who are you type of thing, you know? And he said, you know, we started talking about records and he started to tell me what records to listen to. And there was one particular record that had just come out. He said, you should go and get it. It's Bob James 4. So I went and bought the record. And the next time I saw him, he asked me if I'd learned it. This was like 3 days after I bought the song, bought the record. He's like, have you learned it yet? I said, learned it? No. He said, well, you need to learn it. That's how we get our chops up. So then from that point on, I started listening to George Duke, Stanley Clarke, Dee Bridgewater, a whole bunch of jazz funk, Brand X, jazz rock. So it'd be Brand X. Yes, Jeff Berlin, Bill Bruford, a whole bunch of jazz rock artists. Because it's like maths. for
Yeah.
musicians.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
you can learn scales and stuff like that.
Mhm.
So yeah, I was into that, and I really was not into soul music at all.
Mm.
But the first thing that we spoke about, which was my parents and the romantic thing, that was kind of buried deep, and I didn't realize that I would need that. But while I was at the rehearsal in South London, I got a phone call from someone saying that they want me to come and take a look at their band or something like that. They needed a bass player. So after my rehearsal, I went to this place. It was where the academy is. And there's a park outside where people do skateboard and stuff like that. And this dude, he had a house there. And not a house, a flat. So we're in an estate. In the front of this is where you walk into this guy's flat. It's a masonette, I think, and he's carpeted the walls. He literally has a rehearsal room in his flat with real drum booth, carpet on the ceiling, carpet on the walls. And he charges you to use it. Commercially, not just, like for himself, anyone. So this is where I met Jane and I met Steve, and a whole bunch of people were in there. You might know some of these names. I mean, Marianne was there, Deborah, Jane's best friend, Cheryl, Peter, all these people were in there. Everyone was stunning, good-looking people. But the only person that could really play was Steve, because the drummer was a little bit out of time. The background vocals seemed like they need organizing. Jane and Steve were quite close, though. They were together around the piano, like they had a different relationship to the rest of them. And I could see that those two looked like the most serious ones, because when Jane sung, there was something special about her voice. She had something that didn't sound like London. It sounded, much broader. A sweet voice. So I did the audition or whatever it was. I didn't audition. I just played along to their songs. And then there was a guitar in the room. So I picked up the guitar and I started playing. I said, I play guitar and I write songs too. Now, I'd only written a few songs, but you're just trying to boost yourself. So I told them I wrote songs. And so they said, yeah, come back next week. When I went back next week, there was only 3 of us.
Wow.
I did mention to Steve that the drummer was a little, a little bit, wobbly, and maybe should think about getting someone who's, a little bit straighter. But he sacked everyone. Steve sacked everyone. So Steve's group at that point, Steve and Jane, it's their group. I didn't really know who was who at that point, but when I came the second week and saw that everyone was missing, I kind of figured, okay, so these are the 2 main people. So Steve said, yeah, you play guitar and bass, I play keys, she sings. I think we're good there. We don't really need anyone else. I said, oh, okay. And then
it was that time, actually. It was that time where you could get people. That's what we did. We made it a 3. Well, I made it a 3.
Yeah.
Because at that time, before that, bands, like, to let people know, every band was like 10 people in a group and nobody got no money.
That's right.
It was all that. And I thought, by the time I got to the record company, I said, you know what? I saw the group Police, and they had all these other people behind them. I'm thinking, hold on a minute, but you see 3 of them on the cover. I thought that's the idea. That's a smart way of doing it. Just hire everybody in, and that's how we came like that. And then subsequently, I saw Edgar and Co. They did it. Everybody started to do it. You guys did it. So it was
I think Steve might have been learning from you. It wasn't.
I knew him. I knew him from he was playing, I think, with Paul Weller and all that kind of thing. Knew him as a brass player. Yeah. So I knew him, and I knew Jay, I knew Cheryl from years back.
Right.
So we used to go out partying and stuff like that. Right. So, and I remember, if I'm not right, I think we were on tour, but you had done one of your first shows, maybe for Root Magazine, was it?
Right. Oh my gosh. Aylesbury, I can't remember where it was, somewhere posh.
Some helicopter thing, and I think that's one of your first shows. Am I right?
That was the first show.
There you go. There
Fruit
you go.
magazine. Oh my gosh.
But didn't you have another? You had some other singers with you on that.
See what that was? That was the band that I played in before my own band, Mint Condition. Really, that's what that was.
Oh, I see.
With Steve. Steve, we were playing Steve's songs.
Okay.
So Steve said, "I got this thing," and my band would just say, "Okay, we'll learn that," and that's exactly what we did. We did a few of those.
Yeah.
It was almost a long time before we actually got back and did live again. I don't think we ever did live again with in England. Yeah, me, Jane, and Steve on stage with a live band behind us in England. I don't think we ever did that again. That was the only time.
Wow, because I remember when you went to do your American tour, because that was a big thing. That was a big thing. So I remember, they're going to America. I thought,
right. Yeah,
I remember all that. It's coming back to me now.
Wow.
Yeah, I may even have a magazine somewhere where there was a picture of you guys at the Root party performing.
No way.
And maybe some footage as well. I think.
No.
Yeah.
I'd love to hear
somewhere.
that.
Yeah.
I'd love to get a butchered.
Yeah. So what happened after that? When
we get to so I've met Steve, and Steve's got rid of all the other people, and so at that point, Steve, he had a certain style which was like Joe Sample. I think he used to listen to the keyboard player from Crusaders.
Yeah. I worked with Joe Sample.
No way.
Yeah. An Imagination single. That's a B-side.
Right.
He came down to, I don't know if you remember PRT Studios.
Yeah. My missus used to work there.
Yeah. And we wrote a song together.
No.
And it was the wildest thing because he was knocking back Special Brew.
Joe, really?
Joe Sample. He said, "I heard about this new brew, man, and can you give me time? I want to try it out." I said, "Okay." So we had 6 cans. He was just knocking it back. And what we were doing it live. So the situation, I was singing to him. So each time he would have these chord progressions. I was singing with him, and they would change. So I had to follow him going, and it was so different. When he left, the engineer and myself were like, "How are we going to piece this together?" Because it was like, it was. And what we had to do in the end, we added a live track behind it. Because it had that sort of feel that you couldn't have it as a main track because it was way the brew got in. The brew got in. So and we did a session for Wilton Felder and Joe Sample. Was it Joe Sample? No, Wilton and Sticks Hooper. I think it was two of them because they were doing a production for a thing called Kelly Marie. She had a hit with "Feels Like I'm in Love." And they want to do like a street life kind of thing for her, and a track called Hollywood. So Ashley, my member from Imagination, and I were doing backgrounds on this track called "Don't Take Your Love to Hollywood." That's another story.
Oh my God!
It's about you today.
You've got brilliant stories.
Oh my God!
I love Joe Sample. When I heard Steve could play like that, that really warmed me to Steve because I hadn't even got to the trumpet part yet. I mean, Steve was just playing these beautiful chords. He had these great songs, instrumentals, most of them. And there was a little problem in that I could see that Jane was not being used that much on those particular styles of songs because they were sort of like Crusaders, like an instrumental group, and a lot of the melody was in the chords, the progression that they were doing, and I think Steve was following that path. But what happened was Steve had a few ideas that were really good, and one of them was the In the Sky idea. And so he had a friend that was working in City Sounds, and he said, he said, we could probably put out a white label for Christmas. So we was like, oh, okay, whatever. I mean, we didn't really know what he meant. After that, we learned that putting out songs at Christmas was probably not a good idea unless you were really big. Right? But when you're young.
Exactly.
So we made this demo of In the Sky and took it to the dude that was in City Sounds. And then we didn't hear anything. Christmas came and left. And apparently the dude had lost his job. So that was us, all our money, what went into that demo, it's gone. And then the guy resurfaced again halfway through January. And he said that he had been given the job at Virgin. So Mick Clark. Yes, so this dude, his name was Mick Clark. Great guy. He went on to sign Maxi Priest, Soul to Soul, and a whole bunch of other guys. He was a good guy. But I'm not sure why, but the guys at Virgin, I'm not sure that they understood urban music, black music. And so they gave him a whole department. This dude, he just went in there and they just said, right, we're going to start up a new division and you're going to be the head of it. And he was like, oh, okay. And then they said, got any ideas? And he just happened to have our tape in his pocket. So he had something to play them. And they I don't think they knew anything about, soul music. They just said, yeah, right, get on with it. So he did. And we had a contract, and that was the beginning of it. So it was like 3 singles and an album. And if you had one of those singles go into the top 40, you triggered that album part of the contract. So we had the first one was a song called In the Sky. And while we were doing In the Sky, we met our producers who were Chris and Eddie Amu from The Real Thing. They, we had a situation with our managers as well, because our manager was a friend of mine called Granville, or Mark, and he called himself Mark Jackson now. But he kept on calling the record company, trying to make sure that they understood that we needed videos made, we needed this, we needed that. He was trying to develop a relationship with the record company. Unfortunately, they called us up and said, if he calls here again, the deal's off. And then while we were, it's not funny. He was really trying to get a good deal for us, but it backfired on him. So we had to choose, either we go with him and have nothing, or we go with the record company and get rid of him. So we had to sort of tell him to sit this one out. Oh, it's terrible, really, because he had good intentions. But what happened was, while we were doing In the Sky, we met the Real Thing's managers. Tony Hall, and he had an assistant called Jeff. They became our managers. And so we begged them to manage us, basically. And they took it on. And so the second single was called, so the first single, it didn't go nowhere. In the Sky must have went to 1,000. I
know that feeling.
Yeah, so I think we sold about 30 copies or something. It was terrible. But what happened was, on the next single, they said, look, you guys obviously can't write, so we're going to put you with other writers. And this was Tony as well, because our new manager at the time, Tony Hall, he was a publisher. So he saw the importance of writing really easy to remember hooks and stuff like that. That was his thing. So we started writing with different people. One of the people they put us with was a guy called George Hargreaves, another guy, his partner, Tony Ajagbe. Yeah, very George Hargreaves and Tony Ajagbe, they wrote a song for us called We've Arrived. And the We've Arrived song, actually, I didn't really like it, but it was very up, and it was, kind of in groove with what was going on at the time in the 80s. So, and it actually went into the top 40, it went to number 38. So that triggered the album deal. Anyway, we did another single, it didn't do that much. We tried to write the next record, and that also didn't go into the top 50. So the verdict was that Loose Ends can't write their own songs. But we could write our own songs because they liked what we did for the demo. but it's just it wasn't quite right with the radio. Just the radio side of it. I don't think radio liked our music. So, and there was no real black radio at the time. I have to say this, we were on the cusp of a revolution, but we didn't know it. Amen. So what happened was, that was the Pirates thing, but we'll get to that in a second. So we were asked to do this album, and it was like, Ray, you got into the top 40. Now, what are you going to do for your album? So we asked if we could go to America, and we were told, yeah, it's possible. And so we went home and prayed, please let us not have none of these British producers, because we did have a few British producers. Like on the third single that we did, we had, I think his name was Pete Walsh, and the act that he produced before us was the Sex Pistols. I don't know why he nominated to produce us, but it was just, yeah, Virgin, I think they were trying things with us. We were sort of experimental. We were the first black act, and I think they thought that if someone was successful with one piece of product, it might work on another product, which that's not really the case all the time, but I think that was the road they were going down. So anyway, they put us with these guys and it didn't work. So Mick Clark, he was our A&R man. He suggested Nick Martinelli. I've never heard of Nick Martinelli, but I do like music that comes out of Philadelphia. So what happened was, he played me a girl called Brandy Wells. Not me, so not me per se, but all of us. He played us Brandy Wells and stuff, and I liked that album. It was dreamy, and I like the dreamy vibes. Well, now I'm Aquarius. I love dreamy vibes, right? So I loved it, and so after we kind of got in, like agreed that that is a good direction to go with. We wrote some songs, and we sent them off to the producer, Nick Martinelli. And we also wrote some other songs with other people. There was one guy called Ian Foster, who I think he has a sister called Gina Foster. And Ian is a good writer, and we wrote with Ian as well. Because Tony Hall, he wasn't impressed with our writing. He didn't like the hooks. He thought, that, well, he knows what Radio 1 would want. I think he used to come back and say, no, it's still a little bit too black. It's too, I don't think they're going to like that. And we generally had a problem with the radio in England. So, yes. So this is a worrying thing, because the producer that we were about to work with was coming to England, and he wanted to speak with us about the songs. So when we met him, we said to him, well, we sent our songs first, and then we sent the ones we did with other people. So we said to him, did you like the songs that we sent you? He said, yeah, I love them, but he didn't say which ones. So we said, did you like the first batch or the second batch? So he said, second batch. He goes, oh, no, I didn't like them. I threw them in the dustbin. I was like, so you like the first ones? He said, yes, those are the best songs. He said, I haven't heard anything as fresh as that for ages. I'm like, wow. So then we were on our way to do this album. And when we got there, it was Philadelphia. The studio was very analog, brilliant. It was a brilliant session. We had a great time. But this is where, at this point, let me just, before I go any further, this was the time when all of the songs that my dad used to play to woo my mother, this is when they became active, because Steve Nicol, his songs, while we were writing, Virgin were not, they were not impressed with the Joe Sample style of jazz, funk. They just didn't understand that at all. So it was either, so not only that, but Steve, as soon as we signed to Virgin, he had to go on tour with the Jam.
Okay.
He went on tour for nearly a year. It was about 10 months. And in that time, myself and Jane got to know each other and got to write together. And I had a few songs up my sleeve because I had a crush on a particular person, and she was a singer that went to my school. And she actually sang Oliver Twist, "Where Is His Love?"
Oh,
and it's an African girl, but she sang this song, and it was amazing. Everyone started crying. She sang "Where Is Love," and her name was Jean Addy Bambo.
oh,
Right? So,
wow.
right.
Okay.
So I was in love with this girl, and I wrote some songs for her. I wanted her to come and join our group, and she said no. But she was very sweet. And I think there was one particular summer, probably summer of '76, where I was helpful to her mother. I was carrying her mother's shopping home. I was doing everything to get with this girl. And eventually I made my move, and she said, "Too short, Carl, you're too short." So, yeah, it's a true story. So she said, "You're too short." I mean, I think we're the same height, but I think she said when she puts her heels on, she'd be towering over me. So that was the end of that. But that weekend, though, Leee, I went home and I wrote "Choose Me." I was in a bad way. Just on the guitar, I wrote "Choose Me." I was in a bad way. I wrote "Dial 999, this is an emergency."
Oh my God. Wow.
I was really in a bad way. And then another song called "No Stranger to Darkness." But so those songs, I didn't record them. I just had them on the guitar, the chords,
Yeah,
and
the ideas. Yeah.
and the verses and stuff. And while Steve was away, I began playing these songs with Jane. And so Jane started to sing these songs. So when Steve got back, he was still trying to do the Joe Sample type thing, and I think it was just a moment where Jane just said, "You can pick me up, then pull me down." And Steve was like, "What is that?" So then I started to show him the chords. I was playing the chords behind, and shouting the chords across the room to him. And he started to play along. And by the end of the session, we had "Choose Me," and he learned "Dial 999." And so these are the songs that we sent to Nikki. Plus a bunch of other ones. So that's how that came about. And those songs featured Jane, because his songs were more sort of featuring Steve, and then Jane would sing on the end, maybe. But these songs will now had intro, verse, chorus, a little bit different to what we were doing before. So those are the songs that Nicky heard, and he loved that. So we went to Philadelphia, and we started. When we got back from Philadelphia, there was a revolution over here. Yeah, and when we finished the first album, so we go in October and come back just before December, 8 weeks in the winter in Philadelphia, and then we come back. But when we got back, I have to say the mood at Virgin had changed. We would have many meetings at Virgin, and they were very stark, very cold, very sort of, you get down to business and then you're out in sort of an hour. But when we came from the airport, when we came back to London, the driver said that he had been asked to go to the record label. So I was like, "Really? You're not going to drop us home?" He said, No, we're going to go to the record label for a second. So what happened was we got to the label, and people were waving from out the building. People were like, "Hey, there they are." Now, I was very confused by this. But what had happened was, while we were gone in that 2 months, pirate radio took off.
Mm-hmm.
And someone at Virgin had leaked our tapes. And so people at Pirate Radio were playing our album before it had been mixed, before it got pressed. It was like a cassette. We used to have cassettes and people would play, you know, tracks. And they were really excited. Everyone was like hyped up for this record. Now, we didn't have a record at the time. We just had the recordings. But the weird thing was that after leaving Virgin, I'm hearing our album on the radio. We're like, what? And it didn't stop there, you know, it was all day long. And there was these radio stations, pirate ones. They were all over the dial. And most of the time, there would be a Loose Ends record played. So it was almost as if the radio thing, the problem that we had with the airplay, that had just disappeared. And now we were on maybe 50 different radio stations in one weekend, you know? The problem was that we didn't get paid for that, but it wasn't monetized yet. But it was hype, you know? It was like a promotional tool. So that was the beginning of what looked like this could be successful. But that was it, really. That was the beginning.
Yeah, I remember hearing 999.
999, yeah, that's the first one.
That's it. I remember hearing that. And was it Little Spice?
Little Spice, yes. That was an oldie to Steve, you know, where Steve used to have those instrumentals. And used to come in at the end and sing.
There's one of those kind of things. Because it was a jazz funk fusion time. And I think in those early 80s, you had loads of these bands like Light the World, like Central Line, like, you know, they did do a kind of brass construction thing where they'd have all these instrumentals and then you hear a chant coming in, or you hear like a chorus coming in. You know? And that was a period where, you know, singers weren't singing the songs, they were singing at the end, or, you know, like
Pick Up the Pieces.
Quincy had it. That's right, exactly. They have the right band, all that kind of stuff. So I remember that kind of period where it was like, okay, when you come in, oh, you're here at the end, you know, that kind of situation.
Brilliant.
But I remember you guys, because even though I was traveling, I was always trying to listen to the radio because we were on the road. And obviously I knew Cheryl and Peter, who are your friends as well, who would keep me up to date what you're doing. And then we'd end up at parties together. That was the period of, you know, house parties and stuff, and everybody's playing everybody's tracks. And there was a great support system in that time, a real good, strong support system. You know,
you were on TV at that point, and we hadn't got to that level yet. But I remember you taking us aside and giving us some great advice. And just like your advice was on point. You knew exactly the stage that we were at. And what was good about what you were doing, you were sharing experiences that a lot of other people weren't prepared to share with us, you know, because we had the press and a lot of things that we didn't know how to navigate. Difficult questions, you know, sometimes the press would ask you stuff. It could be a racial question. It could be a question which, you know, very uncomfortable, and you've got to kind of know how to deal with that. So you were great. I think a few parties you'd taken us aside and said, look, careful how you do this. Careful how you do that. Don't do that. Make sure you do this.
It was, you know, I grew up where I was always having fights with the record company from day one. And even now with, you know, I still you know, I was, you know, because we were like, though we were a soul group and funk group, I always thought of us like visually like Funkadelic, like Parliament, like George Clinton in that vibe. So we would always push the level like a rock band would do, like a white rock band would do. And that was the conception in that sense. So like, if Alice Cooper's doing it, we're going to take it to another level, you know, because they've never seen a black band like that, you know. So people didn't know what, are you this, are you that? It was always that kind of situation. And Morgan Khan, who was A&R, was like pushing for that. And I was like, okay, how far do we go? You know, it's that kind of scenario. But it got the attention, and you made sure you had your marketing, your the
Yes.
vinyl, make sure that everything was in the grooves and people would love what you're doing.
Right.
And I was always writing all the time. I was consistently writing. I was writing before Imagination. Like you talking about your song that you wrote for Gene.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think I wrote In and Out of Love. Got maybe 2 years before. So Good, So Right. You
Right.
know, because I have it all there. So I understood that, you know. And what was great was I felt that as I go through the door, others are coming through, let them come through, but advise them as they're going through,
Yeah.
you know, because other people, you know, they didn't care, you know, they didn't care. And we were such a part of a strong movement in the
Yes.
80s. And I don't think people actually realize it until now,
Yeah.
how strong this British Black movement was.
Definitely.
You know, and I mean, for example, became good friends with Nick because he produced some tracks for us. We had a big hit with him the last time.
No way.
Yeah, we went to Sigma and
Ah,
yeah, didn't you? I don't know
no,
if you knew. And he texts me regular. We still text
no way.
since now.
Oh,
Yep, I keep in contact. Yeah. So it was interesting, but he wanted we wanted more an R&B sound, more rootsy, and he wanted what we had done before.
yeah.
So we had to in between that. You know, it was like we were battling in between that, you know. And so he's great. He was great with melodies, and he'd come over to the theater to see theater over here. So he'd say, Lee, let's go to theater and what have you. But he was very, very, very good, and he knew what to bring out. And he's worked with Regina Bell, Diana Ross,
Yeah.
Patti LaBelle, Stephanie Mills, who did I Feel Good Over. He's done, you know. So it's really interesting that you guys from London
Right.
went over there, and
It was weird.
I tell you,
It was weird. Nick,
how do you feel being a pioneer, especially the classic song "Hanging on a String"? I mean, how do you feel all these years
right.
later?
So, Hanging on a String kind of came about. It's funny because when we wrote the song, we used the chorus. We sung it differently. We sung it like, "You never tell me you were waiting, contemplating," and we thought that was cute. And then we got to Philadelphia, and Nicky said, "Why are you singing it so fast?" Yeah, he said, "Break that up, man." I said, "Really?" He said, "Yeah, break it up." And he doesn't tell you how to break it up. He just
I
said,
know.
"Break it up."
Bring it
Like,
up, baby.
what?
Bring it up, baby.
Yeah, just break that up, man. That's too much. Like, okay. Then we went home and we were like, you never tell me you were waiting, contemplating, maybe. Yeah, and he loved that, you know. But Nicky, he knew. Basically, he's one of those guys. He knows. He has that thing about him. At the time, he was a DJ in Philadelphia when we got there, and because he was a DJ, and in Philadelphia, they got some really soulful artists, and he was like they got some great clubs, and
Yeah.
there was this like a gay club that he used to play in, and the music was so brilliant.
Incredible.
And how they did it as well. It was like you go into this club and it would be a normal club, and then there was a staircase. And under the staircase, you get those little doors.
Yeah.
You go through this little door, go down the stairs, and then there was this massive club. And that's where Nick used to play, and it was ram-packed. Like the other club was half empty. This club was rammed. So he knew, because I think DJs have that ability from their position. They know they're the last people in the industry and the first people on the punter side to enjoy the song in a public setting. So he had that. He knew exactly what people would want to hear in a song. So Nicky, he didn't even sing or give you ideas. He gave you a little idea, but what he was really good at was he had this knowing thing. So he would listen to your demo and he would say, this bit, I don't know, that bothers me. And he had this way of getting up after he said what he said. He'd sort of get up and walk off. So you'd be like, okay, so that I guess that's what he means. And you get to figure out the rest. So we were in there with a maestro. So once we straightened out the "you never tell me you were waiting" part, I think what happened was Steve, it was a funny, let me just explain it, because I wasn't involved in the drum pattern part at that point. We'd written a song in London, and the song had my bass. I played bass on it and stuff. When we got to the session, Nicky and Steve had worked out the drum pattern that they were going to use. He didn't tell me nothing. Yeah, I think maybe because it was like so close to the SOS band thing, maybe they thought if I tell Carl, it might be, whatever. So they did it. When I heard it, and they played the bass on it. So I'm there sitting there from London. I'm coming from London with my bass, and I'm sitting there, and I have to tell you, Lee, I was seething. I was happy because it sounded great, but seething because I wasn't on it.
Yeah,
so
I hear you.
It was a funny paradox, like, oh my gosh. So I'm sitting there trying to look happy, trying to put my head with it. Well, I was thinking, oh, this is embarrassing. I've got my bass there, and I just didn't know where to put my head. So I said, would you mind if I played some guitar along with what you guys are doing? Now, all the guitars that you hear on Hanging on a String, none of those guitars were on the demo. Right? So I basically had to find somewhere to channel this energy that was in me. It was, I'm not sure if it was anger, it was just displacement. I just felt out of place. So they gave me the guitar, and while they were doing whatever they were doing, putting in strings and stuff like that, I would be going dun 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 dun. So Nicky would look over and go, put that on the track. And then I would do put that on the track. My seagulls, put that on the track. And it was like everything I did. I was like, okay. So now I'm on the track, but not the way I thought I would be. And the other thing was that Jane couldn't get her visa. For some reason, she had the visa problem. And so me and Steve were there first. We had 2 weeks on our own. And because we were burning time, Nicky said, Carl, you're going to have to sing the demos. I was like, oh, I mean, I can sing a song to give to someone, but a performance, I don't think I can handle that. I'm just a bass player, a guitarist, He's like, well, we need to get this going because we booked you in from the 15th and it's now the end of October and we haven't done anything. Okay, so I had to sing. So at that point, that is where I became a singer. Because before that, I was a bass player, guitarist, maybe, and not even a good guitarist. Not even but the bass player side, I thought confident about. But Nick Martinelli, he said, nah, I don't think you're that much of a bass player. He said, I actually think you're a better guitarist. I was like, what?
He has great ears. He has very, very good ears.
And I think he might be right.
Yeah, he's got good ears, believe me.
Yeah, I think he might have been influenced by that session where I was playing all these little bits in the corner.
Yeah.
So after that, he was like, you sure you're a bass player? And later on, my relationship with Nicky, as we did more and more albums, me and Nicky start to fall out over certain things as well. And every time we'd fall out, he would say, Carl, concentrate on bass. Okay. Let me concentrate on production.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so it was great. It was a great time. We did the Hanging on the String tune, and been told that MCA wanted to sign us, and there would be a gentleman coming down from MCA to the studio to sign Loose. Well, he wanted to see if he could sign us. Now, he had heard the first album. And I think a few record companies in America had heard the first album, and they weren't really that impressed. it was like, it was all right. They didn't really hear a single that they could go with. So, but this one, the guy heard, Ah Baby, Oh Baby, that song, A
Yeah,
Little
yeah, yeah.
Spice. And he loved that song. For some reason, he said, that song, man, I could play that song over and over and over. Okay, so he's a jazz head. So we just said, oh, okay, well, he's coming down to hear us, right? So when he got to the studio, we was already on our second album, and we were recording Hanging on a String. And this was when we first knew that Hanging on a String had something magical about it.
Yeah,
had the new drums and the new Moog bass, not played bass, and all my guitar bits on it. And so I sung the chorus, and then me and Jane sung the chorus. And then this dude turns up, and he came in, he listened to the song, and he said, play it again. And we played it again. He said, oh my God, play it again. And we played it again. And it was like, this guy, is this good? And then he said, I have to make a phone call. And he went out, and I could hear him going, man, you got to come down and hear this. And he was going nuts. So it's like, oh, I think he likes this tune. So he signed us knowing that Hanging on the String was coming next. Right?
Yeah.
So what they did is they took the first album in America, our first album, A Little Spice, and they took off all the tracks that they felt did not work in America, and they put the second album that we recorded, which was called So Where Are You, the best tracks from that album and the best tracks from the first album to make the first American album. Okay. So there is a little bit of a mix-up with the American versions and the English versions. But when we went back to promote Hanging on the String, we didn't realize, because in England we didn't get much airplay on Hanging on a String, and I don't even think it went into top 10. I think it was around 13 somewhere. It was all right, but the Pirates were pumping it, so we felt good about that.
Number one in all the R&B charts, number one in the soul charts. I mean, and they mattered,
Yes,
that kind of thing is coming back now, where the soul side of things, and I'm hearing it a lot more. People are like fed up of an auto-tune thing. They want to hear
proper.
They want to hear a lot of that. So the groups you do, they work. How do you feel now with how the way the music industry has changed, obviously, since the time that you and the guys were together?
Okay, so I think that the music industry, I'm hoping for a reset, because at the moment, I think the lack of music in songs is starting to worry me. The lack of musicians in songs is starting to worry me. I'm a bit of a purist. I do like machines. I do like technology, but I do believe in practice, and I do believe in technique. And I think humans have so much more to give. But at the moment, for the younger generation, it bothers me that street, road man, bad man, whatever you want to call yourself, they have taken precedence, and the musicians are taking a back seat. And the record companies are happy to go along with that. And I just think that can only drive quality into mediocrity. And so they've got this bad man thing, which everyone's harping on about, if you're doing grime, or if you're doing drill and all that stuff. That to me is negative music. That to me, when someone says, I told your girlfriend to meet me at the coffee shop, right? That's war.
I mean,
or I got your girlfriend sitting on my lap. That's war.
I mean, that's raw.
We don't want that.
No. I mean, for me, and even in the music I do now, in particular, I like the organicness. Like the album I've done with Bruce Shaw, you can hear Bill playing. I mean, we've been getting play all the time. He's playing. We've got Mark King playing bass on one of the tracks. We've got Frizzy Forte playing guitar. And I keep doing that. I keep, if we may program the drums and stuff, but I like the organicness of other musicians playing, because I feel that's what makes, because like you send off the rough idea and you say, look, put a bit of your thing
Yeah.
on there. You know, it's like you're putting a barbecue on. So you put a little bit of that on the barbecue. Put a little bit of sweet corn on here. And so therefore you have that freshness of someone contributing to that. You know, we worked with Ernie McCone. He's done a remix of the hit we just had with Take Me Back, and he's playing on it. He's got some Toby Baker playing on keys. He's got some, and
What?
so therefore
Oh,
you
wow.
still have, but it's still a fresh vibe, and I think that's what's coming back. A lot of
Good.
that is coming back, you know, and because I can send you a track. You say, okay, I can put something on it. Let me put
Yeah.
some sweet sauce on this thing that you sent me. You know, and that's what I think is a direction that I'm trying to inspire the younger musicians to kind of do work in that kind of way. And I'm seeing some of them. We were talking to some of the youngsters earlier, and they said to me that a lot of the music is coming right
Yeah,
back around
it is.
again. So it's all that, yeah. I mean, if you listen to My Soul
Yeah.
and Solar Radio and all those stations, they're rising with listeners because people are kind of fed up of, you know, what they hear through the BBC or stuff like that. You know, I can't tell you what's the number one or what's in the charts
Right. Nor
in
can I.
these
Nor can I.
days, and I don't think that's the interest. So people are kind of moving back to some of the things because you know all these records you'd hear, I would say things when you hear Brothers Johnson playing Start
Ah,
Tonight on a Party. It's
yeah.
all real musicians. Or if you hear Boogie Wonderland, you know,
I'm
it's
I'm
it's
I'm
all
confused
those brother
with it.
sections, everything.
I'm a little confused with the
Mm,
scene at the moment because I went to a dance in Hackney, East 17 Club or East Sutton Club, and it was 4 o'clock in the morning. And
mm-hmm,
when I got there, Mark Ronson was doing a set,
mm-hmm,
and the place was ram packed with
mm-hmm,
17 to 25-year-old Europeans.
mm-hmm,
Not many black kids in there, really like college students.
mm-hmm,
When I tell you that place was popping off to Always There by Ronnie Laws.
mm-hmm.
I mean, you couldn't get across the dance floor.
That's
It
what
was
I'm
someone was going
saying.
to
I'm
elbow
trying to
you.
say to you,
Oh,
they're
yeah,
rediscovering all of this. And
right,
he's smart because he's on the pulse and he was on
right.
the pulse doing what he was doing. But
Yeah,
now he's
yeah.
kind of saying, okay, it's time to, you know, I was speaking to David Morales and he was saying, oh, you know, your sound, it's all coming back, you know.
Right.
Changes has been a huge hit last year in all the clubs. They redid it and just had it on the
Really?
and stuff. Yeah. You know, there's
Oh,
a lot. So I'm thinking, so there's a movement starting again. So, you know, when are you going to have something coming up? Because I know that
yeah.
you've got some great things in the oven.
Yeah, yeah. In the next couple of weeks, we're ready to
Good.
go. We're ready. So we've got. I've been working on stuff for the last sort of since COVID.
Mm,
I did
mm,
maybe 2, 3 albums in COVID,
mm, mm.
but so those things I've been working them basically, adding more bits and stuff. And I've got stuff that I did test the market a couple of years ago with a different version of Gonna Make You Mine. And
Mm-hmm.
I think we made about £300 or something. It was completely different, completely different.
Didn't you do a track? What was it? Mystery Girl? Mystery
No,
Girl?
no, it was Gonna Make You Mine, and then it had a song called Forevermore on the end of it.
Because it was a
Um,
track that you did, and I was doing a radio show, and I
right.
played it, and I still got it on the CD, and it was you.
Oh,
And
oh,
I love this track. And I heard Georgie B do a track, and I said to
right.
Eric, that Georgie B's copied Carl's track.
Ah,
This is exactly the same harmony, the same
no
feel
way.
to it. Seriously. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
seriously,
I've been
seriously.
doing little bits and pieces, but I've got one out at the moment with Don E as well, which is
Oh, yes, yes,
yeah, the
yes.
I've Got You track.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's just for Don. Hopefully
Yeah,
he'll make good use of it. But our stuff will be coming out in the next quarter. So hopefully by July we'll have new material out
excellent,
and
excellent.
and the next quarter as well. So we're just going to do EPs for now, because the whole giving away 10 tracks, I think is probably not economic in
Yeah,
this market at the moment.
yeah.
I think the best way to do it is just release a couple of tracks and see how it goes. If you give away 10, 15 songs and your promotion and your marketing is just going to be for that one product, I think you're giving away maybe too much
But
in this time.
we were on a track.
So
we were on a track together. Spiritual.
Ah, that's right. And I have your voice recorded on some great stuff.
That's right.
In fact, don't get me started on that subject.
I know. You know what? I'm preparing for next year because I really wanted to have that focus because I had this Bill Sharp album. We've had that in the can. We did a lot of that. I was supposed to come out, but I did the Gorillas. Then I did Jorge Basilio, a Brazilian artist, and Rob Scott. So I had all this stuff. So I thought, you know what? Because Eric was saying, "Yeah, man, come on, do something." I said, "You know, I want to get all that stuff out." And then I got something with William Orbit. I got stuff with William Orbit, and I did a classical track, and we've updated it with today's groove on it. It's a Rimsky-Korsakov track, which I love. It's a classical piece. But then I gave it like an imagination feel to it in the vocal context, you know, and it kind of works, you know. But the thing about music is, you know, is you can release it now, you can release it tomorrow. If it has that classicness, it can always work.
That's right.
You know.
That's right. That's right. So I'm hoping that hopefully, even though I wrote a lot of these songs 2-3 years ago, I'm hoping that it will still be fresh, you know, because as you say, the classicness is coming back. So yeah,
which is what you do. You do great stuff. I think that, you know, you're one of our pioneers. Definitely our soul pioneer in the UK, for sure.
Thank you for saying that.
And even in America, and there's places in Europe, I know people are, you know, and people coming to see you as well as us. So I know that. So it's gonna be smashing. Carl, I'm leaving.
Thank you.
And I'll see you soon in May.
See you soon.
Take care.
Take care. Thank you for having me. Bye-bye.